I'm Madeline Quinn, the bride who called off her wedding at the altar and had the FBI arrest the groom in front of 250 guests. I walked down that aisle not to say vows, but to expose one of the most elaborate financial frauds Wall Street has ever seen. When I pulled a USB loaded with his crimes from my wedding dress and shouted, "The FBI should be here, right about now," the chapel doors burst open, and they really came. Before I share the full story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever had to overcome betrayal from someone you once trusted. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. The Waldorf Astoria suite gleamed under crystal chandeliers, but I couldn't breathe. My fingers trembled as I clutched my mother's antique watch, the only thing I had left of her. Tomorrow, I'd walk down the aisle at the Hudson Valley estate. Tomorrow, I'd marry Nathaniel Cross, the man who'd swept me off my feet 2 years ago at a tech conference in San Francisco. I was 30, a tech startup founder who'd built her company from a studio apartment in Queens. Orphaned at 12, I'd learned early that love was something you earned through hard work. Nathaniel was everything I wasn't: Boston blue blood, inherited wealth, connections that opened doors before he even knocked. When he chose me, the financial press called it Beauty and the Billionaire, though I preferred to think we were equals in ambition, if not in birthright. The watch felt heavy in my palm. Mom had worn it every day until cancer took her. "Time is the only honest thing left," she'd whispered in those final days. I wanted Nathaniel to have it, to wear it tomorrow as we said our vows. The elevator to his penthouse suite was empty. Good. I wanted this moment to be private, intimate, just him and me and this piece of my past becoming part of our future. But his door was cracked open. Voices drifted out. Nathaniel's smooth baritone and another man's gravelly tone. Richard Vaughn, his financial advisor. "After the merger of both funds and she signs the postnuptial agreement, we cut her loose," Richard said. "She's remarkably easy to manipulate." My blood turned to ice water. I pressed myself against the wall, my mother's watch cutting into my palm. Nathaniel laughed, that same laugh that had charmed me over champagne at the Met Gala. "The beauty of marrying an orphan, Richard. No family to ask inconvenient questions, no one to protect her interests." "And the Cayman accounts?" "She'll never know. The shell companies are all in her name. If anything goes sideways with the SEC, she takes the fall. Classic setup." I bit down on my lip until I tasted copper. Every sweet nothing, every promise, every "I love you" had been a lie. The watch ticked against my palm, steady as a heartbeat. Somehow, I made it back to the elevator, back to my own suite. I sat on the bed, still in my rehearsal dinner dress, and stared at nothing. The city lights blurred through tears I refused to let fall. No, I wouldn't cry. I'd survived foster homes and group homes and building a company from nothing. I'd survive this too. I opened my laptop and began to type. My company, the one Nathaniel had been so eager to merge with his, had given me access to CrossCap's internal systems. I'd written the integration software myself, insisting on doing it personally because I was such a perfectionist. Nathaniel had found it charming. 3 hours later, I had everything. Wire transfers to the Caymans, dummy corporations with my forged signature, stock manipulation schemes dating back 5 years. He wasn't just planning to destroy me, he'd been destroying others for years. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathaniel. "Missing you tonight, darling. Can't wait for tomorrow." I typed back, "Me too. Sweet dreams." Then I made 2 calls. First, to a white hat hacker I'd met at DEF CON. Second, to a financial journalist who'd been investigating CrossCap for years without success. By dawn, I had a flash drive with enough evidence to destroy an empire. But first, I had a wedding to attend. The Hudson Valley estate looked like a fairy tale. 250 guests, a string quartet, gardens exploding with white roses and baby's breath. Nathaniel had spared no expense. Of course he hadn't. He was spending my money too. "You look absolutely radiant." Eleanor Cross, Nathaniel's mother, adjusted my veil with gentle fingers. "I never had a daughter, you know, but now I do." The words cut deeper than any knife. Eleanor had been nothing but kind to me, introducing me to her book club, teaching me to play bridge, filling the mother-shaped hole in my life. What would this do to her? Thank you, I managed, blinking hard. The wedding dress, custom designed by my friend Vera Chen, felt heavy. Not from the beading or the silk, but from the flash drives sewn into the bodice, the printed emails folded into the hem. Vera had done the alterations herself, her face grave when I'd explained what I needed. Just remember, she'd said, pinning the evidence into place. Some of us have survived men like him. You're not alone. I hadn't understood what she meant then. A knock on the door. Nathaniel entered, breaking tradition, carrying a blue velvet box. I couldn't wait, he said, his smile perfect, as always. This was my grandmother's. Saved it for someone special. The sapphire necklace was stunning. He clasped it around my neck, his fingers lingering on my shoulders. In the mirror, we looked like the perfect couple. The tech entrepreneur and the financial prince. The American dream in designer clothing. I have something for you too, I said, producing my mother's watch. His eyes actually misted. Madeline, I can't accept this. It's all you have of her. I want you to have it. I fastened it on his wrist. So you'll always remember this moment. He kissed me then, soft and sweet. If I hadn't heard him last night, I would have believed it meant something. My phone chimed. A message from my hacker friend. Check your email. Now. My blood ran cold. One of the shell companies in my name had just been flagged by the Treasury Department. If I didn't act today, I'd be under federal investigation by Monday. 5 minutes, darling, I told Nathaniel. Just need to touch up my lipstick. Don't be long. I can't wait to make you my wife. The organ played Pachelbel's Canyon as my heels clicked against the marble aisle. 250 faces turned to watch. Cameras flashed. Someone from the Times was here, and the Journal and TechCrunch. The Wall Street elite filled the pews like well-dressed vultures. I walked alone. No father to give me away. That had always made me sad before. Now it felt like freedom. Nathaniel waited at the altar, my mother's watch glinting on his wrist. His groomsmen, all cross-cap executives, stood in a line of black tuxedos and white lies. The minister smiled benevolently, prayer book in hand. Each step was agony. Each step was liberation. I reached the altar. Nathaniel took my hands. His were steady. Mine were not. Dearly beloved, the minister began, we are gathered here today. Wait, I said. A ripple went through the crowd. Nathaniel's smile flickered. I'm sorry, I said, louder now. But before I promise to love, honor, and cherish, I think everyone should know exactly who they're witnessing me marry. Madeline, Nathaniel's voice was low, warning. What are you doing? I pulled the first document from my bodice. This is an email dated 6 months ago. Subject line. Project Cinderella. That's me, apparently. Shall I read it? Madeline, you're confused. You're having cold feet. Target acquired. Merger, potential significant. Personal assets negligible, but technology valuable. Emotional manipulation should be straightforward given subject's background. I looked up at the crowd. Should I continue? Eleanor Cross had gone white. The cameras weren't flashing now. They were rolling. I pulled out more papers. Wire transfers. Shell companies. My signature, except I've never seen these documents before. I turned to the crowd. Did you all know you were attending the wedding of the century? Not for love, but for the biggest financial fraud scheme since Madoff? Nathaniel lunged for the papers. 2 groomsmen held him back. And this, I said, pulling out the flash drive, contains everything. Every crime, every victim, every dollar stolen. I looked at the financial journalist in the 3rd row. Catch. I tossed it to him. The room erupted. Guests shouting, chairs scraping, Nathaniel screaming my name. But I wasn't done. Oh, and the FBI should be here. The chapel doors burst open. Federal agents streamed in. Right about now. They arrested Nathaniel at his own altar. The image made every front page in America. The golden boy of Wall Street in handcuffs, his bride watching with eyes like stone. I spent 3 hours in an FBI field office, handing over evidence, giving statements. They'd been building a case for years. I'd just given them the smoking gun, or rather, an entire arsenal. "You could have come to us earlier," Agent Martinez said. "With what? Suspicions? Hurt feelings?" I shook my head. I needed proof, and I needed him to believe I was his victim until the very end. The media storm was instant and brutal. #Runaway Bride trended for a week. I gave one interview to the journalist who'd caught the flash drive. The rest I let speak for itself. But it was Eleanor who broke my heart. She came to my apartment a week later, looking like she'd aged a decade. "I need to tell you something," she said, clutching a teacup with shaking hands. "About Nathaniel's first wife." I'd known he was widowed. A car accident, he'd said. Tragic. She was pregnant when she died. Nathaniel made her get rid of it, said it would interfere with some deal he was orchestrating. Eleanor's voice broke. She fell into such a deep depression. The accident. The police said she never hit the brakes. The truth was a punch to the gut. "You knew?" "I suspected, but I'm his mother. I chose blindness." She reached for my hand. "When I saw you walk down that aisle, so brave, so alone, I was proud. Proud that someone finally had the courage I lacked." We cried together then, two women bound by the damage one man had done. Later, I learned more. Vera Chen, my dress designer, had been Nathaniel's college girlfriend. He'd destroyed her first business with rumors and lies when she had tried to leave him. The hacker who'd helped me? His sister had lost everything in one of Nathaniel's schemes. I wasn't his first victim, but I was his last. I used the wedding venue deposit to start the Ledger project. What was meant to host my reception became a summit on financial abuse. Women came forward with stories that mirrored mine. Successful, independent women who'd been targeted by men who saw them as assets to strip, not partners to cherish. "The opposite of love isn't hate," I told a room of survivors 6 months later. "It's exploitation." My tech company thrived without Crosscap's help. Turns out, being the woman who brought down Wall Street's golden boy was great for business. Companies wanted my security software. They wanted my integrity. A year after the non-wedding, I gave a TED Talk. The girl who didn't say "I do," but said the truth. 18 million views in the first week. The comments section became a support group for financial abuse survivors. But the real victory came when Clara Morrison approached me at a conference. She'd been Nathaniel's lawyer, the one who'd prepared all those fraudulent documents with my signature. "I need to tell you something," she said, pulling me aside. "He had a contingency plan. If you'd discovered the truth after the wedding..." She handed me a file. Police reports of near-miss accidents, a brake line that had been accidentally damaged, GPS trackers he'd hidden in my car. "You weren't just a mark," Clara said. "You were meant to be another tragedy, another accident that no one would question." I remembered the close calls. The car that had run a red light, missing me by inches. The scaffolding that had collapsed seconds after I'd passed. Not bad luck. Design. That night, I sat in my new office. CEO of Ethica Capital, the investment firm I'd built from Crosscap's ashes, and finally let myself feel the full weight of what I'd survived. Not just betrayal, not just fraud. Attempted murder dressed up as love. 2 years later, a letter arrived from federal prison. Nathaniel's handwriting, still perfect despite everything. "I need to see you," he wrote. "Please." I almost threw it away. Then I thought about Eleanor, about Vera, about all the women who'd never gotten to confront their monsters. I made the drive upstate. He looked smaller in orange, the golden boy tarnished beyond recognition. Still handsome, but hollow now, like a chocolate Easter bunny, all surface, no substance. "You look good," he said. "Success suits you. Prison suits you better." He actually laughed. "I deserved that. I deserve all of it." "Is that why I'm here? To absolve you?" "No." He leaned forward. "I need to tell you something. I loved you. As much as someone like me can love anyone besides himself." "That's not love, Nathaniel. That's possession." "I know that now." He touched the glass between us. "Do you ever think about what we could have been? If I'd been different?" "No," I said honestly. "Because you weren't different. You were exactly who you chose to be." I stood to leave, then turned back. "By the way, Crosscap went up for auction last month. Bankruptcy court." Guess who bought it? His face went white. No. Ethica Capital's first major acquisition, your father's legacy, your grandfather's empire, it's all mine now. I smiled. I'm going to turn it into everything you weren't. Honest, ethical, kind. Madeline? That's Ms. Quinn to you. And Nathaniel? The watch? My mother's watch? I had my lawyer retrieve it from evidence. It's in my office now, on my desk, still keeping perfect time. 5 years after the wedding that wasn't, I stood on another stage. Not an altar this time, the main theater at TEDx New York. The lights were just as bright, the crowd just as expectant, but everything else had changed. Someone asked me recently if I ever regret not getting married that day, I began. The truth is, I did get married, just not to a person. I looked out at the sea of faces. In the front row sat Sophie, the 7-year-old girl I'd adopted 2 years prior. Nathaniel's first wife's daughter, given up for adoption before her death, found by a private investigator I'd hired. She had her mother's eyes and, thank God, none of her father's traits. I married truth. I married justice. I married the idea that love, real love, never asks you to become smaller so someone else can feel bigger. Behind me, the screen showed that famous photo, me in my wedding dress, evidence in hand, facing down corruption in couture. But next to it was another photo, me and Sophie at her adoption ceremony, both of us crying happy tears. The vows I'd written for that day were beautiful lies. I promised to trust you completely. I promised to put your needs before my own. I promised to love you without question. I paused. Today I make different vows. Sophie waved at me from her seat. I waved back. I vow to trust, but verify. I vow to love, but not at the cost of my own worth. I vow to question everything, especially the things that seem too perfect to be true. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Some of you know that Ethica Capital just passed $1 billion under management. We've helped 43 women-owned businesses avoid predatory investors. We've exposed 16 fraud schemes. We've returned $800 million to victims of financial abuse. I pulled out a small card from my pocket. But this is my favorite number. 1. One little girl who almost lost everything because her mother fell in love with a monster. 1 life saved because I refused to be victim number whatever. Sophie stood up and ran to the stage. I caught her in my arms, wedding dress long since donated, evidence long since filed away. But the strength I'd found that day still burning bright. I don't have a husband, I told the crowd, holding my daughter close. I have something better. I have a purpose. I have a voice. I have a future I chose for myself. The applause was thunderous, but all I heard was Sophie whispering in my ear, I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby, I whispered back. Forever and always. No conditions, no contracts, just love. Later, as we walked through Central Park eating ice cream, Sophie asked, Were you scared? At the wedding? Terrified, I admitted. But you did it anyway. Sometimes, sweetheart, the scariest thing and the right thing are the same thing. She thought about that, then nodded. Like when I testified about my first mom? Exactly like that. We walked in comfortable silence, 2 survivors building a life from the ashes of other people's cruelty. Above us, the sky was brilliantly blue, full of possibility. My phone buzzed. Another woman. Another story. Another predator thinking love was a business deal. I'd answer it later. Right now, I had ice cream to eat, and a daughter to love, and a life to live on my own terms. Some weddings fall apart so stronger empires can rise. Mine certainly did.